Welcome student in the lecture number 11 of Petrochemical Technology. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the properties and specification of waxes, their source and their uses. Now, the waxes have the present content of the oil. So the question is, why separate petroleum waxes from oil? So why do we separate the waxes from the oil? What is the main reason to separate the wax from the petroleum products? So we will discuss here into this lecture. So paraffin wax is often present in intermediate and heavy oils and separate upon the cooling. So whenever your petroleum product get cooled, the waxes are deposited into the oil which are present into the petroleum product. So mostly this present in intermediate and heavy oil, and it can be separated when you are cooling these products. So the removal of wax is desirable to obtain lubricating oil with satisfactory low power point. It's so uh, it is required to separate the waxes from the petroleum product for low power point. Low power point is basically whenever you are means these petroleum product are under lower temperature, then this is critical and difficult to flow. So this is because of the wax present into the petroleum product, and this waxes has to be removed from the petroleum product. So the main product of the dewaxing process is a dewaxed oil with desired pour point and byproduct in slack wax. So when you are removing the wax, after removal of the wax from petroleum product at the desired pour point, you obtain the wax that is called a slack wax. Slack wax is basically a kind of loose wax, or the wax which contained oil. The wax produced in the dewax step can be de-oiled with and upgraded to produce sealable wax such as food grade wax. So the slack wax also later on it contains the oil that is present into the pore spaces or in between the cracks of the slack wax. So this oil is de-oiled and the oil is removed to produce the better wax, that is for example is food grade wax. So welcome to the next slide. This is manufacture of wax from the petroleum. So here we will come to know about the process of manufacturing the wax from the petroleum. So we have two process. One is wax sweetening and solvent deoiling. So both the process are commonly employed for separating the oil from the slack wax. So the current trend is more towards the solvent deoiling. Through both the methods are widely in practice. So now we have the current trend that we are using is de-oiling, solvent de-oiling method for the removal of wax from the petroleum. And but both the methods are mostly in the practice in India and all over the world. So if you talk about India, we have the Assam Oil Company. This is a basically refinery. It was now the current name is Indian Oil Refinery. This is situated at Digboi. So this started with commissioning of the wax sweetening plant. So the wax sweetening plant can't be employed at de-oiling of all variety of feedstock, particularly those with high content of isoparaffin. So that means the wax that contains high paraffin. So in high paraffin, this method is basically not used. The wax sweetening process cannot be used for this. So we are using for this the de-oiling for all variety of feedstocks. So which must be handled by solvent de-oiling process. If there is a high content of isoparaffin, then we are using the solvent de-oiling process, and the reason for this is amorphous nature and high viscosity. Mostly the slack wax have the amorphous, means these are their shape is not conform, and nature it has very high viscosity. So we are using to separate oil from this wax, that is solvent de-oiling process. So into this slide you can see the wax sweeting process. We have explained it with the diagram. The wax sweeting has been defined as the process of drainage and fractional fusion and solution. In this process, in the solid state wax crystal have large number of interstices and void containing oil. So wax crystal contains the interstices, or you can say the cracks or permeable channels or some void spaces that contains the oil, and also these interstices also contains the oil. So on gradual heating these cells expand. Whenever you are heating these waxes, so these cells are expanding and open up for the oil to drain away. After heating the waxes, the oil present into the wax is draining out. You can see the process diagram here. We have a sweetening chamber. From this place we are sending the feed, that is wax, and this is being heated from the bottom. Heat is supplied, then it is going to the storage tank, and this is coming to the finished wax tank. So this is basically the food oil that is drained out from the wax, and this is again the residue that is going to the mixing tank, and it is filter in one stage and filter in second stage. Then from the top we are removing the paraffin wax, and from the bottom product we have the micro wax. Now in this slide the wax sweeting process is explained in more detail in 3 points and 3 steps. So you can see in the typical sweeting oven, that is comprises of shell and tube heat exchangers. So in the shell and tube heat exchangers, the wax from the lube oil dewaxing unit is charged as a liquid to shell side of the oven. So from the liquid to shell side of the oven, you are charging a wax, you are feeding the wax sample. Then it is solidified by running cold water through the tube side. From the tube side you are sending the cold water to solidify the wax sample, and after the wax is set up, it is heated to the specified rate over a period of many days. So when you have feeded the wax sample from the cell side and cold water from the tube side, then it is heated for the period of many days to get the uh, wax sample to be warm. Once the oven warms, the wax begins to melt. In the second step you will see the first liquid fraction to drain from the bed through the rundown line have lowest melting point and contain the most of the oil, and conversely last liquid to come from the bed has the highest melting point and at least amount of oil. So whenever it has the highest melting point, so this has least amount of oil. Whenever this has the lowest melting point, so it has the most amount of oil. In the third step, the liquid dripping collects in the bottom of the oven. The liquid that is dripping, that is collected at the bottom of the oven and drain into the pans. You are collecting into the pans. As each pan becomes full, whenever each pan is becoming full, the wax pan is typically tested for its oil content. Then again that wax has to be tested that how much oil again it contains, and the result of this analysis determines whether the wax in the pan is pumped to the food oil for the catalytic cracker feed interstage intermediate storage to be de-sweet in another sweeting oven, or at high feed storage to be processed as finished wax. So this was the detail of the wax sweeting process. Now in a continuation to further the process of wax sweetening, in conventional practice the sweetening continues until all of the wax has been melted from the bed, and unfortunately it is very difficult to control the quality and composition of actual wax product. So it is determined in part of the size of the pan and oil content of the charged wax. And next, in conventional sweetening require that oven temperature be raised slowly until all of the wax has been melted. So in the early meltdown method of the wax sweetening, however, the slow heating sweetening cycle is interrupted and stopped when monitoring of the liquid dripping indicates that the solid bed of the wax remaining of the sweetening oven has been desired property of the final wax product. Then sweetening oven is set in and the drain valve closed, and sweetening oven is heated at rate substantially faster than the sweetening rate to melt the wax remaining in the sweetening oven as quickly as possible. So this early interruption in the normal sweetening cycle can save as much as 50% of the actual sweetening time and 30% of overall time, which includes charging, cooling, etc. So advantages: the time saving achieved by the early meltdown methods of wax sweetening substantially increases production volume throughout the for each sweetening oven. So this was the complete detail of the process of wax sweeting uh, uh, from the wax, slack wax. So next we will continue in the another slide. Thank you.